Hari Om. How should a newcomer on the spiritual path should approach the practice of Maha Yoga? First of all, we need to understand the fact that we are not here to attain anything afresh. We are not going to find or have a vision of Bhagavan after arduous years of practice. No. We are going to learn to keep quiet. And the more we keep quiet, the more we will understand intuitively that what is there when our mind is quiet is indeed the presence of Bhagavan. So this is the basic understanding everyone should have who wishes to practice Maha Yoga. Now, one of the easiest ways to approach the practice of Maha Yoga I shall explain now. First thing is, when we go to sleep at night, at least 5-10 minutes before going to sleep, we shall remain quiet, not getting engaged with any of the worldly activities, etc. So that when we lie down to sleep, we shall be in a position to be aware of our sinking mind within. The mind slowly sinks within when it is about to enter the state of sleep, deep sleep. So what we are trying here is to be as much aware as we can during the time when the mind slowly subsides into the state of deep sleep. And to the extent we can be watchful and aware of this process, to that extent we can understand the deep peace which we can experience when the mind is about to enter the state of deep sleep. In the same way, when we wake up in the morning, again, we have to be extremely vigilant, watchful, and to the extent we can be aware or awake just a few moments before we are going to wake up. Then in those moments, we can be watchful enough to the fact that the mind is rising up from the state of deep sleep and we are slowly becoming aware of the things of the world. So, in this way, we can be watchful enough. If we can be watchful enough, then we can quite easily be able to be aware of the sinking mind when we are about to enter the state of deep sleep, and likewise when we are about to wake up in the morning, we can be aware of the silent and still the inner awareness of I am, the presence of Bhagavan. Just a few moments before we totally wake up and identify ourselves with the body and mind and the activities of the world. So this is something very useful for everyone on this path, so that it naturally gives us a glimpse of the peace, state of peace, which is there inherently with all of us, even without doing any kinds of spiritual practice. Now, the second thing is, when we wake up in the morning, to the extent possible, we shall immediately spend some 5 to 10 minutes of time being quiet. In this 5-10 minutes of time, we are not going to do anything. We are just going to be quiet. No expectations. We don't try to control any thoughts. We don't try to become aware of anything. We don't try to become aware of the awareness. We just remain quiet. watchful, and as and when any unwanted thoughts arise, immediately we shift our attention to the source of the thoughts. All thoughts arise from the inner awareness, the presence of Bhagavan. So, whenever any thoughts arise, if we are going to shift our attention to the source of the thoughts, what we are doing is we are basically shifting our attention towards the inner awareness of I am, the presence of Bhagavan, because it is from which all thoughts arise. So, as and when any unwanted thoughts arise, immediately we become vigilant, extremely watchful, and shift our attention to the source of the thoughts, which is the presence of Bhagavan, the I am, the pure I. The moment we turn our attention to the presence of Bhagavan or the pure I, immediately the thought which had risen would subside and go away. So what we have to do is we have to be extremely watchful and vigilant. Then any thoughts which may arise, we will naturally become aware of that rising of thought, the mental movement, and thereafter shift our attention to the source of the thoughts, which is the pure I or the presence of Bhagavan. Thereby, the thought which had risen would subside and go back, and we shall remain in the state of pure I until the next thought arises. So, how much ever the thoughts may arise, for every thought we do this process. We have to be extremely vigilant, watchful, because the mind can deceive us in so many ways. So we should keep our attention always on what exactly is happening within. To the extent we keep our attention within, to that extent we shall be able to immediately take note of any rising of thoughts, and just by shifting our attention to the source of the thoughts, whatever thought which had risen up would go away. So, by constantly doing this practice all the time, as much as possible, every day, one will be able to remain in the state of pure I, free from any of the rising thoughts. At the same time, whatever thoughts which are necessary for our worldly life, we can surely take note of and then accomplish our activities, worldly activities. There is no issues in those activities which we may have to engage with as per our obligations and duties in the world. But any unwanted thoughts, we shall immediately take note of, shift our attention to the pure I or the presence of Bhagavan, thereby subside those unwanted thoughts. The more we remain without unwanted thoughts, the more we remain subsided in the pure I or the presence of Bhagavan. And the more we remain in the presence of Bhagavan or the pure I, the more the ego, which is the I thought or the mind, would naturally become weaker and weaker, and thereby one will be able to stay in the source, the pure I or the presence of Bhagavan, for longer periods of time. The more we remain in the source, the presence of Bhagavan, the more happiness we will experience, because the presence of Bhagavan or the pure I is the source of all the happiness. So, the more we remain within the presence of Bhagavan, the more our mind will not seek pleasures in the external objects of the world, because we understand all the objects, they don't have happiness on its own. The happiness we think, which we are deriving from the worldly objects, is because of our wrong notion. Actually, the only source of happiness is the pure I or the presence of Bhagavan, because it is only the conscious being. All other are inert objects. Other than the pure eye or the presence of Bhagavan, our body, mind, and every object of the world, all of these are inert objects. They are not conscious being. They don't have awareness of their own. They don't have a conscious presence. So only a conscious being can be the source of happiness. So by this constant practice of Maha Yoga, along with being watchful when we go to sleep and while we are awake in the morning, and doing those simple state of being quiet for 5-10 minutes in the morning and night time before we go to bed, in those 2 periods of time, one will be able to remain with that inner beingness, the pure eye, the presence of Bhagavan, as much possible during the day, even during the worldly activities, however busy one's life may be. So let us constantly engage with the practice of Maha Yoga, as I said, all through the day, and those 5-10 minutes of time in the morning and night time, we can just remain quiet without doing anything, because the presence of Bhagavan is there within us already, and to the extent we are quiet, to that extent the presence of Bhagavan will reveal itself as the silent inner awareness, the consciousness of our own existence, the pure being, the pure eye, the presence of Bhagavan. So all of us should make effort to apply and do these 3 kinds of practices all through the day, so that one will be able to rapidly progress in this path of Maha Yoga. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala.